Hello, Andrew here again, and this is episode 89. What I want to do today is to pick up what I didn't complete in the last episode. I looked at the issue of divorce and suggested that it may not be the unforgivable sin, and that Jesus might address the issue quite differently if he was speaking to us today, that context is everything. So let's hear the text again. Matthew chapter 5 verses 31 to 32. It was also said, whoever divorces his wife, let him give her a certificate of divorce. But I say to you that anyone who divorces his wife, except on the grounds of unchastity, causes her to commit adultery. And whoever marries a divorced woman commits adultery. Now, the reason I'm doing this now is I didn't want to leave you with the impression that I thought that divorce is a good thing, and that persisting in trying to make a marriage work is not worth it. That is not the takeaway I wanted you to be left with. Marriage can be and was intended to be the most humanly enhancing relationship that we could enter. There are theological reasons that contribute to this that I'm not going to go into today. Marriage is character forming. I suspect that many of us bail at the point where the most growth, both personally and individually and in the relationship, is possible. And it's that I want to address today. I'm going to talk about what I usually talk about when I take weddings. I don't take many weddings, so not many people get to hear it. And when you do, you might conclude that this is the reason that I don't take many weddings and people aren't forming a queue. Well, it's entirely possible. But when I take a wedding, I'm talking to the people mostly who are not the ones who are getting married, because they're not listening. They're too busy thinking about all sorts of other things. They just want me to get over. I'm talking to the rest of the people who are there, knowing that half of their relationships are in trouble, some of them seriously. And I says, there's a good number of you that had a fight before you came here today. You can't wear that tie. What do you think you're doing wearing that? You can't go like that. And I'm looking around and watching these people, and you're seeing these elbows and these significant looks going between members of the congregation. And so I start to talk about the issue of synergy. And synergy, I think, is at the heart of what a marriage is intended to be. Synergy is where the sum total is more than the sum of the parts. So we know that 1 and 1 equals 2. But in synergy, 1 and 1 might equal 17 or 154. That because we're together in this, that who we are together is a lot greater than if we just add together the sum of the parts. That's what marriage was intended to be. It was intended to be synergistic, that we become more as individuals. We become more because we're together. That who we are as a couple is greater than just the sum of our parts. Now, the tragedy is that many relationships are actually in deficit. 1 plus 1 equals -3 or -25. That because we're together, we're actually busy tearing one another apart. And that we're actually diminishing the other. That we become less than we could be. That is the opposite. And that's what happens in so many relationships. But what I want to say today is it doesn't mean they can't be redeemed. If one is determined that it can't work, it may be hopeless. My observation, my hunch though, is that apathy is the greatest enemy. Where someone's giving up caring altogether. Even somebody who has passion and energy, and it might be negative at this point, that they're really angry with this person, actually still is a sign of hope. But where they've kind of walked away and don't care anymore, that apathetic, oh, please yourself, is the biggest enemy. And so I just want to make some suggestions today, because the reality is that as you're listening to this, that your relationship could be in trouble. And all relationships go through difficult times. Lynn and I celebrate 40 years today. Not today, celebrate 40 years at the end of this year of marriage. And we'd kind of been going out for 4 years before that. We lived in different cities, but we got there. And I would be a liar if I said that it's been smooth sailing all the way. It hasn't been. There's times when I've felt that I could have cheerfully throttled her, and I have no doubt she me. There have been times, and sometimes for extended periods, when the relationship has felt stressed and difficult, and yet we have persisted. And I'd want to say that I don't want to swap it for anybody, that I love Lynn more today than I ever have, and only see that growing as the years continue to unfold. And as I'm starting to appreciate things about her that they weren't my thing, so I never understood or appreciated them. She's really quite remarkable in her own way. She's stunning. So I'm just wanting to say that it doesn't have to end badly. And the first thing that I want to say is that I'm not responsible for how the other person behaves. So often we actually have this kind of quid pro quo things. Well, I'll be nice to you as long as you're nice to me. I'll treat you well as long as you treat me well. That when you start treating me with dignity and respect, I'll start treating you that way. And it's like a game of chicken that neither of us is going to blink first. And that is not actually going to help. The thing that we see about marriage is it's a covenant, not a contract. And a covenant says that I commit myself to this relationship irrespective of how you behave. I commit myself to this relationship and to loving you even if you're nasty, even if you're snarky, even if you're lazy and indolent and abusive. I commit myself to loving you. That's what a covenant is. A contract says that I'll only love you as long as you fulfill a set of conditions. And if you stop fulfilling them, it's all off and we're gone. That's what a contract is. Marriage is a covenant. It's not a contract. But I am responsible for my behavior. I'm responsible for my reactions. I'm responsible for my responses. I'm responsible for me. And it isn't contingent upon how you behave. It doesn't need to be. That because you behave badly doesn't mean that I need to. Why should I allow you how you're behaving to determine who I am and what I am? So that's the first thing that I want to actually put out there. That I need to take responsibility for me and for my behaviour, and I'm not ultimately responsible for how my marriage partner behaves. I may in fact be contributing to some of her negative behaviours. In the end, I'm not responsible for how she is. I am responsible for who and what and how I am. That's the first thing. The second thing I want to say is that love is not just a feeling. It's a decision. Love is a choice that we make. It's not primarily a feeling. When I first met Lynn, I fell in lust. That's the simple truth of it. I was a very attractive woman. She was then, she is now. And there's just something about her that really drew me to her. Well, there comes a period when that wears off and you're facing the realities of who this person really is, not just what they look like and how they present. And that's where love gets to start. That's where love gets to grow. That's where love starts to be formed. We start to see other things and we make some choices about the relationship. If it's always about feelings, it's a poor basis for the marriage, and it's a poor basis for ending a marriage, because feelings change. Feelings follow our beliefs and our thoughts. And if you don't believe me, part of the issue is here is that things can happen in a relationship, things that can undermine it, things that get up our nose, things that we feel betrayed by. And as this eats away at us, there are thoughts, there are beliefs in us that say, I don't think that I can keep doing this any longer. I don't want to continue to trust this person. And as we start to think those thoughts and as we start to feed them, the feelings that go with them actually go away. Now, I just want to do a thought experiment with you just for a moment, just to show you how this works. I want you to think of somebody you're close to, and I want you to be angry with them. I want you to be angry with them. How do you feel angry with somebody? You have to think about something that they did, or something about them that really irritates you. The feeling does not come on its own. You do not have direct access to your feelings. I want you to be happy, all right? I want you to be happy. Just be happy. I want you to feel happy. How did you do that? Well, in the words of Sandra Bullock, you had to think a happy thought. You had to think about something, and I know that you're on Facebook and people have interminable funny cat pictures. You had to think about something that makes you smile. You had to think about something that invokes the feeling of happiness. What I'm wanting to say to you today is that you do not have direct access to your emotions. You don't. None of us do. Our emotions are a result of thoughts that we're thinking. And our thoughts are a result of beliefs that we have. If we have come to a conclusion that the marriage is over, if we believe that deep within us, we will be thinking thoughts that continue to feed that, and our feelings will automatically follow. They will automatically follow. We do not have direct access to our feelings, and our feelings are an unreliable guide as to what is really going on. We can choose to love again. I've done it a number of times in my marriage with Lynn. I've chosen where I've kind of felt, this is just too hard. And I thought, actually, no, this is worth it. I can choose to love. And what I know is that when I make that choice, it's not far that the feelings follow. Seriously, it is not far. When I make a choice to recommit myself to Lynn and to the marriage, it is not far behind that the feelings follow, because I've made a belief statement that this can work. We can do this. I can love her. And the feelings of love actually follow pretty smartly afterwards. I can't promise you that it's going to. I can suggest it's worth a try. It's worth a try. As I said, I'm not responsible for her behavior. I'm not responsible for her feelings. I am responsible for mine. I can make some choices about that. And what I observe is that when I make those choices, when I make those choices to love, when I make those choices to commit afresh to the relationship, something switches in the dynamic, and it actually gives the other person, gives her permission to actually also reciprocate in some way. It's not guaranteed. It's certainly not guaranteed. But I'm wanting to suggest to you that if you're willing to make the commitment, there is the possibility that the other person will start to feel loved, will start to recognize a tenderness, will start to recognize a gentleness, will start to recognize a trust and a commitment to them that will open the frostiness of their own hearts to be willing ultimately to be making a fresh start of it. As I say, there are no guarantees, but you can ask yourself, what is it that you've got to lose? Divorce is not inevitable. There is something in that other person that drew you to them in the first place. Something in them that you needed. Something in them that completes you. The reality is that the things that you are particularly attracted to also have a downside to them. And they may be the things that annoy you. But we need to recognize that there are things in this other person that we needed and may still need to draw us into our own wholeness. The reality is, as I said at the beginning, that marriage is character forming. It is. And it's a good thing. Same with having kids. It's character forming, you know. Having kids will teach you far more than just about anything else. Not getting our own way all the time actually is good for us. It's good for us. It's good for our soul. It's good for our character. Having to consider the needs of others before our own is good for us. It actually opens us up as human beings. It makes us more generous, more kind, and we experience a richer life as we're willing to do that. Learning to share our lives, to share ourselves, to share our hearts is good for us. It draws us into a deeper and richer and fuller humanity. And being vulnerable to another is good for us. It opens us to the God who loves us. It opens us to the love of others. It opens us to a richness of being. Jesus said, I've come that you might have life and have it in all its fullness. And that fullness is only discovered ultimately in relationships. It's discovered in the richness of our closest and most intimate relationships. And so here we have it. Marriage can be that for us. I remember years ago reading the title of a book, How to Be Happy Though Married. And I thought, what is that? How to be happy though married. It has its challenges, but it's also potentially the most enriching project that you will ever enter in. And so yesterday was an excuse for the possibility of divorce. Today is a plea to work at your marriage, because it's not only in the best interest of the relationship, it's potentially in your best interest and could be the most life-giving thing you ever do. Well, that's it for today. God bless you.